Before I get started, I just wanted to let you know that channel memberships are live, and just for a little extra a month, you can help support and build this channel. Okay, with that out of the way, Djarin defeats Moff Gideon in single combat aboard the Imperial leader's cruiser during the last episode of The Mandalorian Season 2. Din is unaware of what he has obtained from the Imperial, but he is brought up to speed quickly by the defeated Moff and a member of Din's own team, bo-katan Kryze. He tries to hand the Darksaber to his Mandalorian colleague, but she must refuse. She didn't win the black-bladed saber. For the time being, the Darksaber belongs to Mando, and with it comes the leadership of the Mandalorian people. But where did this black-bladed weapon originate? And how did it end up with Djarin as its current owner? The history of the Darksaber is shrouded in mystery, from the time after it was created and up to the point we see it for the first time. No, the first time we see it is not during The Mandalorian. It was first introduced in an episode of the Clone Wars in 2010, but its origins go much further back, in the tune of 1032 BBY. For those of you who don't know Star Wars dates, that means 1032 years prior to the Death Star battle in A New Hope, or before the Battle of Yavin. For comparison, The Mandalorian takes place in 9 ABY, or 9 years after the Battle of Yavin. That means that when Djarin, or Mando if you prefer, wields the sword, the Darksaber has already been around for 1041 years. That's old. Its creation isn't so much of a mystery. The weapon was built by the only Mandalorian to have ever been inducted into the Jedi Order. Tar Vizsla was a Force-sensitive Mandalorian. He was taken into the Jedi Order as a young child and eventually became a Jedi Knight. He was the only Mandalorian to have done so. So, as I said before, he was the only Mandalorian to become a Jedi. So in essence, this was his lightsaber. It was unique. It had a rectangle hilt and a small crossguard. But what made it more unique was that when ignited, it had a black blade that would crackle with white energy. Not to mention the blade was shaped like that of a sword from our own planet Earth. This was uncommon to the usual cylindrical shape of a traditional lightsaber blade. Tar Vizsla went on to lead the Mandalorian people as their Mandalore. The Darksaber became a symbol of leadership within House Vizsla. However, after Tar Vizsla's death, the Jedi locked the unique saber in the Jedi Temple. Now, this is where the history becomes a little faded. We know the Darksaber was stolen from the Jedi Temple by someone of House Vizsla around the fall of the Old Republic, but it is not explained by whom. After that, it was passed down in succession to the next heirs of House Vizsla, until the moment we see it in the Clone Wars being wielded by Pre Vizsla. Pre Vizsla was an outcast Mandalorian, cast away to the Mandalorian moon of Concordia by the pacifist government of the New Mandalorians, led by Duchess Satine Kryze. Pre Vizsla was the former governor of Concordia, and now the leader of a terrorist organization called Death Watch. The ideals of Death Watch were to rid Mandalore of the pacifists and return Mandalorian culture to its roots of conquest and war. With the Darksaber in hand, he banded with the Sith assassin and his brother, Maul and Savage Opress. The Darkside Force sensitives helped Pre Vizsla with his goal of taking power of Mandalore. After he got what he wanted, he had the brothers incarcerated, out of distrust for the duo. Maul and his brother escaped, and Maul challenged Vizsla to single combat. Pre accepted, and the two fought a furious battle. Pre Vizsla skilled with the Darksaber, and Maul just as skilled with his red lightsaber. The battle ensued for a few minutes, and there were moments that Pre Vizsla even got the upper hand. However, Maul became victorious and killed Vizsla. Maul then took possession of the Darksaber. This is the first time we have seen a non-Vizsla or non-Mandalorian wield the blade. The Darksaber is no longer a weapon of succession. Pre Vizsla was the last of the Vizsla heirs to have it passed down to him, and the last to wield it carrying the name of Vizsla. The Darksaber is now a symbol of power and leadership throughout the organization and Mandalorian society. All of Death Watch witnessed as Maul severed Pre Vizsla's head and took the Darksaber for himself. most followed the rule that whoever held the weapon was the leader, albeit Maul wasn't even a Mandalorian. Not only was he the first non-Vizsla to possess the Darksaber, but he was also the first non-Mandalorian. As I said, most accepted his rule within the Death Watch group. However, there were few who didn't. Among the dissenters was bo-katan Kryze. I'm sure you remember her from the Mandalorian series. Bo-katan took those who refused to follow a non-Mandalorian leader and fled, eventually helping Obi-Wan Kenobi escape Mandalore. At this time, the pacifists had already been defeated and Duchess Satine Kryze was locked in a cell. Maul had her retrieved from the cell and used the Darksaber to kill her in front of Obi-Wan Kenobi, who had feelings for Satine when he was a Padawan. When Maul's consolidation of power was complete, he placed Olmec as a figurehead, leader on Mandalore, but still operated behind the scenes using the Darksaber as his status symbol. When Darth Sidious learned of Maul being alive and being the leader of a criminal organization along with Mandalore itself, he decided to pay Maul and his brother a visit. Maul and Savage tried to fight his former master using the Darksaber, but they were overpowered. Maul was imprisoned and Savage was killed. Maul's lieutenants, Gar Saxon and Rook Kast, stage a rescue of Maul and are successful. The Darksaber is then returned to Maul, who would keep the Darksaber hidden for a number of years. In fact, it wasn't until the Empire ruled the galaxy that it found its next owner. Maul kept it hidden on his home planet of Dathomir until a young Mandalorian named Sabine Wren and her Jedi apprentice friend Ezra Bridger obtained it in the cave, which Maul had it hidden. Sabine was possessed by Maul's deceased sisterhood, and she tried to kill Ezra with the blade. Ezra then used his own lightsaber and the Darksaber to destroy the altar the spirits were coming from, and Sabine was back to her old self. Sabine Wren didn't trust herself with the Darksaber and gave it to Ezra Bridger's master, Kanan Jarrus, to keep safe. Kanan is the second non-Mandalorian to hold the weapon, although he wasn't using it for power or leadership. He didn't understand what he had, so he took it to another Mandalorian, Fenn Rau, to learn about it. After Rau explained its history and significance, Rau and Jarrus convinced Sabine to wield it and learn to use it. The Darksaber was then back in a Mandalorian's hands. But, to clarify, not just a Mandalorian, but a member of House Vizsla. Sabine's mother was a member of House Vizsla and Death Watch during the Clone Wars. So, Sabine's possession of it put it back in the line of succession. Well, sort of. At least it's House Vizsla, even if not owned by a Vizsla themselves. Sabine returned to her home world and spoke with her mother, Ursa Wren, about uniting their clan and joining the rebellion. Instead, Ursa Wren took the Darksaber and offered it to Gar Saxon, Maul's former lieutenant, in exchange for her daughter Sabine's life. Gar Saxon took the blade and ignited it with no intention of keeping his word. A skirmish ensued between Gar Saxon's super commandos and Clan Wren. Even though Saxon almost beat Sabine, she was able to wound him using Ezra's lightsaber and took the Darksaber from him. Ursa then killed Saxon, and Sabine was now the rightful owner of the ancient weapon. During a mission to rescue her father, Sabine met bo-katan Kryze, Night Owl, former Death Watch member, and sister to the pacifist leader Duchess Satine Kryze. After the mission was completed, Sabine convinced bo-katan to take the Darksaber and rule Mandalore. Sometime thereafter, bo-katan would lose the Darksaber during the Imperial Purge of Mandalore to Moff Gideon himself. Gideon is the third person to not be of Mandalorian descent nor creed to possess the Darksaber. After that, we know what happens. It ends up in the hands of the Mandalorian Djarin after he defeats Gideon in combat. It's going to be interesting to see how the future of the Darksaber plays out. So, that's it. From Mandalorian Jedi to his descendants of House Vizsla to a former Sith Lord back to House Vizsla into the hands of an Imperial loyalist of Gar Saxon back to House Vizsla again through Sabine Wren, then into Clan Kryze with bo-katan Kryze, into an Imperial Moff's possession, and now it resides with the Mandalorian Din Djarin. The Darksaber certainly has had an interesting history. Sought after by many and possessed by few, it is currently the status symbol of Mandalorian leadership. Can you think of something I missed? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all my Mandalorian lore and general Star Wars theories and discussions. Thank you for watching, and remember, this is the way, the only way.